Good morning. It's really good to be with you again, and I really do mean that. I want to share just straight from the get go the title of this I'm going to call El Roi. It's a Hebrew name, and it may be one that some people have heard and some people haven't, but it means the God who sees me. And as we go on, I'm sure it'll become evident of why I've chosen that name. I've shared a couple of times in the past on the things in my life and heart that God has showed me where I've been praying, Lord, show me the areas of pride. And He has shown me, and I've shared that with the last two programs. And this one is no different, really. The way I want to share this is because of certain things that have happened in my life and certain things that have come to the forefront. And one is pain. And it might not be immediately obvious, but when I describe what I see as pain and it gets mixed with pride, it's a disaster. It is something that you just don't want. It's poisonous. It is something that just takes completely off course what God wants to do in our hearts and life. And by pain, I mean rejection, failure, isolation. You could be forgotten in your lowest moments. Sometimes peer pressure can put you down. Judgment, you're being judged unfairly. Envy, even wounds and putrefied sores it speaks about in Isaiah chapter 1, where Israel was just not listening to God and just going their own way. And as I go through this, and I've shared it before, that it says in James that if we confess our faults one to another, our slips, that we can pray for one another. So I'm really hoping that you're going to pray for me as I pray for you, as I open up some of the what He's been showing me tonight, this morning as well. Some of the areas that He showed me, one was, it took me right the way back, early 20s. I had a business in London. We had over 100 people working there, and it just failed. I always thought it was no fault of my own, but when I looked back, it was totally my fault. But I just turned my back the other way, left a load of debt, and started walking. And I walked from Scotland down to England, and I got rides as well. In those days, you seemed to be able to get them. And then I crossed the water into France, the English Channel, and then from France walked down through Spain, through another stretch of water across to Morocco, through the desert Algiers, and then across into Tunisia, another stretch of water again, up it through Italy to Switzerland, and all did not end well, and I ended up back here. But what I'm trying to say is that my pride just took me away from that failure. And there was other times after that. I went to work in Germany as an engineer, and I was asked to do something which I felt was below my station, basically. So I just walked off the site and started walking. No money, no nothing. Just, when you look back at it now, it's pretty crazy. But God was with me, and I didn't know it then, but I did get another job, and I went from there. As I worked on oil rigs and different places, I got looked over for promotion where I thought I was far more qualified than everybody else. Pride rises up, but the pain stays in your heart. But one of the big ones was the pain of children, my children, leaving in the middle of the night. You get up in the morning and they're not there. They've left. And I think that's one of the big ones. It's like a brick drops out of your heart. An emotion tells you, oh, just leave everything here and go with them. Just go with them. But God took us from Scotland to here. And the plan of God was not to do that. And that was one of the areas where pride could say, let's just go with the children. Let's just, forget all of this and just go. But God has a plan. He always has a plan. And a lot of these pains can fly under the radar. Even if we're not aware of them, they're still, within us. And they can really ignite a fire, which has really been smouldering for years. In Scotland, I was just thinking about this. We have open fires a lot, as they do up north here, and we burn a lot of coal. So the coal is there keeping the house warm because it's quite cold sometimes. And then at night time, you put a sprinkling of what's called dross on the top of it. And the dross is just like fine coal powder. And it puts a blanket on the top. And it just smothers the fire down. The fire has not gone out, it's down. So when you get up in the morning and you hit it with a poker, or you just, just rake it up, it just bursts into flames. And that's what some of this pain, if it's not dealt with, if you haven't got a hold of it, if there's no deliverance in those areas, it can do that, and it can take you totally out of the will of God, And I was reflecting on some of these things, and what brought it to my attention was a song, really, it's a worship song. We sing it in the church, and I know they sing it in other churches. And it's quite unusual, actually, because it has a lot of Hebrew words in it. We do sing a lot of Hebrew words in the church that I'm at, in Word of Faith, but this one is particular because it wasn't particularly originated from here. And it says, El Shaddai, which means God Almighty, the All-Sufficient One. Elyon Adonai, the Most High God, I beseech you. Age to age, you're still the same, by the power of your name. El Shaddai, El Kamka Na Adonai, which means I will love you, O Lord. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. And that's just the main body of the song. But then it goes on to the verses. It says, through your love and through the Ram, you saved the son of Abraham. And the song is speaking about Abram's second child, Isaac. Through the power of your hand, you turned the sea into dry land. To the outcast on her knees, you were the God who really sees. And that God who really sees is El Roi. And by your might, you set the children free. And through this, and when I was reading about this, and I saw this, and I started to read about it, I started to see that God is with us through anything and everything. He might seem distant sometimes, but he is not. He is right here. He sees everything, every person, all the time. He is not trapped in time. He looks down and he can see the beginning from the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He sees it all. He sees every single life, and he sees the outcome from the end, even down to the beginning. And so when I thought about some of these words, a lot of people say that the names of God, that words have meaning. But I'm not a professor of English or anything, but I think it's the other way round, is that the meanings and revelations are what words are applied to. And the names of God, and we've spoken about a few, are not names, but revelation of who he is to certain people throughout history. And they're still being revealed to people and to us, and the nature and the character of his love for us. And I've watched it and I've seen it, and I know people, and I've seen it in the church. And there are people I could point out who, when one in particular I'm thinking on, when their daughter was born, she was not born with not more than a few problems. And when the people and the parents saw that, they were crying out to God with their whole heart. And as it continued, there were more problems, and things came in the way. But they stood there and they saw Jehovah Rapha. That's the name, but it's not the name, it's the revelation of what they saw. There's maybe another person I can think of too, who was, on paper anyway, a multimillionaire. And, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden circumstances changed. And as they changed, he started to lose a lot of what was accumulated to his account, if you want to put it that way. But he kept crying out, and even got so serious that it came down to the line and down to the wire, as you might say, where he was going to lose his house. But as he cried out, he saw God, the Lord will provide. And he cried out for that. I watched it and I saw it. And he is Jehovah Yahweh Jireh. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. And these are some of the revelations you get when you start to look at some of the names that are applied to God. And going back to the song that we sing, the worship song, to the outcast on her knees, you were the God who really sees. You are El Roi, the God who really sees. And sometimes when you've felt completely unseen, almost as though you didn't matter, the people you trusted, the church, the family who trusted you, you feel abandoned and you feel alone. We came from Scotland and we trusted and we believed God when we came here because of certain circumstances and events that had happened. And when you feel alone in that, you feel, who can I trust? Where was God when you were in the darkest part of your night or the darkest part of my night? You know, you feel that. You think, where is God? Where is he? You know, it is something to comprehend, really, to understand that he is there all the time, and he never changes. I also like studying a bit of American history. I enjoy it, actually. But I was reading here and it just struck a chord. Benjamin Franklin in 1787 at the Constitutional Convention, he wanted prayer to be in every meeting before it started. And he said this: if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it possible that an empire can rise without his aid? And that obviously comes from Matthew 10:29. Are not two little sparrows sold for a penny, and yet not one of them will fall to the ground, and without your Father's leave, consent and notice. He sees everything, even the hairs on our head. You know, we may not have a full head of hair anymore, but he sees every part. That's what he means. And he sees the sparrows. He sees everything all the time. And so going back to El Roi, the person that is spoken about here in the song, you know, it says in Genesis, and this is, I may not get through all of this because Genesis, it is interwoven so much and there are so many layers and so many places to look at it and come from. But when you look at Abram and he left Ur of the Chaldees, and that was his home. That's where Terah, his father, and they all then. It was a city in Sumerian city, which is where Iraq is today. And he travelled from there and he left with his father Terah, and then he settled in Haran, and he stayed there until Terah died. And he followed then what God had told him, and by faith travelled to Canaan. And then as he was in Canaan, and this is just was important to me to see this, as he was in Canaan, there was a famine. So he went down to Egypt, and then he was with his wife. And his wife was also his half-sister. And when he went down there, he said to her, the people down there might see your beauty and they will kill me on that behalf. So please tell them that you're my sister. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't exactly truthful either. But so Pharaoh took Sarah, his wife, and blessed Abraham here with livestock, wealth, and servants. So in Egypt, he was given all of this. But when Pharaoh was cursed by God and saw Abraham hadn't told the whole truth, and he told him to leave with all his possessions, including the slave. So now, if you can read sometime from Genesis 15 through to 21, you'll get the whole of this story. But in Genesis 15, verse 5, he took Abram when he had travelled back, and he brought him outside his tent into the starlight and said, look now towards the heavens and count the stars, if you're able to number them. Then he said, so shall your descendants be. He gave him a promise, and by faith he was walking in that promise. But then sometimes when these things happen, when you first come into the things of God and you see everything and everything is great and beautiful, you know, and 20 years later you're thinking, well, what's going on? What's happened? You know, where is God in all of this? But he is still there. And that is the whole point. God is the one who sees. And then in verse 16, Genesis 16, verse 1, it says, now Sarai, which was Sarai before Sarah, Abram before he became Abraham, Abram's wife had borne him no children. She had an Egyptian maid whose name was Hagar. An Egyptian maid. There was a person who I presume was brought up in Egypt, who spoke the Egyptian language, who was part of an Egyptian family, who was taken into Pharaoh's household or whatever, as a slave, as whatever, and she was taken or given as a slave, as a maidservant to Sarai. And Sarai said to Abram, "See here, the Lord has restrained me from having children." I mean, think about it. He's got this promise, and she's saying, "The Lord has restrained me." I don't know if she went to the Lord and asked him, but she says, "The Lord has restrained me from bearing children. I'm asking you to be with my maid. It may be that I can obtain children by her, like a surrogate family, I mean, there's still surrogate people right now, but then it was common, because if a woman couldn't bear children, it became a reproof to her. She was almost barren and nothing, so she wanted to build a family around Abram's child. And so Abram listened to and heeded what Sarah said. And you can read on. And Hagar became pregnant, and when she saw that she was with child, listen, when she saw that she was child, this is the slave girl, this is the person that was, you don't know if she was abused or whatever, but she's there. She's the lowest of the low in some places in this. And she looked then with contempt upon her mistress and despised her. Pain and pride. The pain was there from what she endured, but the pride was she saw herself exalted. She could do what Sarai couldn't do. And so she rose up in this. Then Sarah said to Abram, "May the responsibility for my wrong and deprivation of rights upon you. I give you my maid into your bosom." And when she saw that she was with child, I was contemptible and despised in her eyes. May the Lord be judge between you and me. Well, God will judge. But Abram said to Sarai, "See here, your maid is in your hands and power. Do as you please with her." And when Sarai dealt severely with her, humbling and afflicting her, she made her life miserable, whether she gave her too much work or whether she was just throwing insults or whatever else at her. She despised her, because here was somebody who did what she couldn't do, and this person, Hagar, rose up in pride and was going whatever she was saying. So it says straight afterwards, Hagar fled from her. And that's, look at it. She is in a strange land, strange language, strange everything. She doesn't know who she is or where she is or what she is. She just knows she's carrying a child, and this child is in her. But she fled, and she fled from her. She fled from Sarai in the desert, alone, nowhere to go, no one to run to. But the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness of the road to Shur. This is completely amazing. This is a woman that the angel of the Lord, the first appearance in the whole of the Bible, that the angel of the Lord, and you can look up who the angel of the Lord is, you can go on. It is God. The same person that visited Moses in the burning bush and said, "Take off your shoes, the place you're standing in is holy." That is the angel of the Lord. And he said to Hagar, who's in the wilderness, Sarah's maid, and now someone had seen her and knew her name, and he knew everything about her. And he said to her, "Where did you come from?" This is in verse 8. "And where are you intending to go?" God knows exactly, but he's wanting a response. And she said, "I am running away from my mistress Sarai." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Go back to your mistress and humbly submit to her control." Think about it. She's just run away. She's fled. She's in the desert. She's whatever, I don't know if there's any place that she was getting direction or anything, but she was just there alone. And I would imagine in her heart she was saying, "What? Return to the suffering and the cruelty?" But the angel of the Lord also knew the future. And the angel of the Lord said to her, "I will multiply your descendants." This is Hagar, not Sarai. "I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they shall be numbered for multitude," which means there's going to be so many of them. And the angel of the Lord continued, "See now, you with child, and you shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, which means God hears. If ever you see a name with El in it, El is God. Michael, Daniel, Gabriel, take note, it means something. Because the Lord has heard and paid attention to your affliction. So she called the name of the Lord, who spoke to her, You are the God of seeing, or you are the God who sees me, El Roi. For she said, Have I not even here in the wilderness looked upon him who sees me and lived? Remember, that was the same response that, I can't remember his name, but Samson's father had, when he saw the angel of the Lord. He says, I've seen God and lived. Here also, and seen the future purpose and designs of him who sees me. Therefore the well was called Beer Lahai Roi, a well to the living one who sees me. It is between Kadesh and Bered. You are the God who sees me. He is the God who is with us all the time. It might not seem the right timing for us in different things. It might seem we've gone through a lot, we've struggled, we've done this, we've done that, and then all of a sudden, he's there. He's right there. He's with us. I walk with somebody in the mornings, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this, but he struggled the same as us all in some areas and some ways, and we've walked for years. And, sometimes you felt left behind, you felt looked out, you felt taken away, And he wrote the song, Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, what the things of God has for us, And I've just watched him being blessed incredibly, and it was something way beyond his imagination, way beyond what he was thinking, way beyond. But that's the God that we serve, because he is the God who sees us. He sees our heart day in, day out, And I can go on here. He says, when Hagar bore Abraham a son, and Abraham called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael, the God who hears. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the Almighty God. Walk and live habitually before me and be perfect, blameless, wholehearted, and complete. And I will make my covenant solemn pledge between me and you will multiply you exceedingly. And Abraham basically said, oh, yeah, he laughed, But God says, as for me, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of many nations. Now your name shall no longer be Abram, his name was changed to Abraham, and I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings will come out of you. So you have Hagar, who's going to have, multitudes come out of him, and here's Isaac now. And I will establish my covenant between me and your descendants and through you. And I will give to you and your prosperity after you the land in which you are a stranger, going from place to place. And you can read, and we all know the story about Israel coming into being. And God said to Abraham, as for you, you shall therefore keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generation. And God gave him a covenant which you shall keep between me and your prosperity. This is verse 9. Every male among you shall be circumcised. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but you shall call her princess. Her name shall be. And I will bless her and give you a son also by her. And this was important because it was the covenant of promise. Ishmael was the covenant of blessing. But God still saw Ishmael, even against this background. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed. And shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And then said to God, oh, that Ishmael, listen to this, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Because the firstborn son in that culture there was always the one who would inherit. And so as it went on, and I'm just go on, you can read through this, but the promise there was with Isaac. And as it goes on, that Sarai, she did have a son, Isaac. And she conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age at the set time. This is chapter 21 now, in which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son, which was born to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. But remember that Abraham also circumcised Ishmael. And Abraham was 100 years old. And Sarah said, God has made me to laugh. All that you hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said that Abram and Sarah should have given birth? And the child grew and was weaned. Apparently, it's about 3 years after the birth that a child is weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. There was something going on there. The embers of this fire were still burning, the envy, the hate, whatever it was. And she said, whereof she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son. And this thing was very grievous, serious, and evil in Abram's sight. And God said, do not let it seem grievous and evil to you because of the youth, your bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said to you, do what she asks, for in Isaac shall your posterity be called, and I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman also. And time you can read this through in chapter 21. So Abraham rose in the morning and he sent her out with it didn't seem a lot, a wineskin of water and some bread. And she sent her out and the youth away. Now, Ishmael's going to be around about 16, 17 by this time. And they wandered on aimlessly, it says, and lost her way in the wilderness of Beersheba. And when the water in the bottle was gone, Hagar caused the youth to lie down under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat down opposite him and a good way off, about a bow shot. For she said, let me see not the death of the lad. And God heard the voice of the youth, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, what troubles you, Hagar? Fear not. Remember, she had already been given the promise of the future. Arise, raise up the youth and support him with your hand, for I intend to make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. He opened her eyes. The well was already there. And she went and filled the empty bottle with water and caused the youth to drink. And if you see this, and you see it even playing out today in what's happening, even really right now in our history of today, the Abraham Accords, you can, maybe there's another time we could share some more on this one. But you watch what God does. He takes our lives. He watches us progress. He's there with us. He walks with us. He talks with us, if we will pray and listen to him. And these things that have come as pains in our life. I just want to read out Isaiah 26. Lord, you will ordain peace. You'll ordain peace, God's favor and blessing, both temporal and spiritual for us. For you have wrought in us and for our works. O Lord our God, other masters besides you, these pains you have ruled over us, but we will acknowledge and mention your name only. They, the former tyrant masters, are dead, and they shall not live and reappear. They are powerless ghosts. All of these pains, all of these anxieties, if you really go into that place to trust God with your whole heart. And that's what I had done with my family. When I saw children leave, I would love to have gone with them. In my heart, the emotional side of everything. But God took us from Scotland to here. He took us here for a purpose and a reason, and it is still unfolding. I look forward to the time when it completely unfolds. But there's a reason for that. And I pray for them, obviously, as I pray for our, of what is going to be happening in the future. But don't despair. Don't give up. Don't give in. Be strong. Be courageous, it says Joshua. Be very courageous because he is with you all the time. And he is El Roi. He is the God who sees you. He's the God who sees me. And so I just want to say thank you for being here again this morning. And, there's many, many programs you can watch if you go to www.wordoffaithfellowship.org. And we record these programs on video as well. And these ones go out on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. So when you look back on this, I just pray that you take it to heart, that God is not against us. He is for us. He is with us. He wants us to make it in everything. He doesn't want to see anybody just go by the wayside. Remember, for God so loved the world, and there is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free. Remember, he so loved the world that he sent somebody who would die for us and take our place so that we could live eternally in his presence. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.